technical accuracy today, I believe. Hey everybody, it's the Jimmy Doane Show. We are live on YouTube right now. If you're watching us on Periscope, join us over at YouTube for the full show with extra visual. Otherwise, you can hang out there if you want to. Anyway, we do this live twice a week these days, 4 p.m. New York time, Wednesday and Sunday, right now on YouTube. I'll post a timestamp copy of this show up later on Twitter and Facebook and some other places. And you can find us at jimmydoneshow.com or around the web in audio format at Libsyn, Apple, Amazon, Google, SoundCloud, Spotify, and others. Just search for Doane, D-O-A-N-E. Today is the second day of December 2020. We are in the original studios, East Coast, West Coast.
There we go.
What's happening?
Well, what's happening? Good point. A couple little notes of note. Bitcoin's around 19,000.
Notes of note.
Yeah,
yes. 19,000.
It went over that, and dropped back down.
19. New record high.
Is it?
Yeah, well, it did go. It went to 19.9 or something, or 19.8.
Okay, well, it dropped down for a while. It was 18.9 when I pulled up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, quickly lost $2,000 after it got up to the high.
Yeah.
Being,
it's volatile.
Yeah. Well, certainly.
But anyway, you'd have certainly made money if you had, quote, invested any time in the last year or two.
Speculation.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, it's interesting because you've got the cryptocurrencies going bananas right now. Gold is obviously way up from the last few years.
Yeah, but it's still it's at a level point now.
It's plateauing a little bit.
Yeah.
But did you notice, for example, Cuba is fixing its currency right now?
Yeah, what's that all about?
They're doing a currency combination. Look, you know what it's all about? It's all about ripping people off.
Well, no doubt. Of course it is. He who controls the money controls everything.
Exactly. And people are starting to realize that. In Cuba, they're about to see a major inflation there.
A reset?
Yeah, a reset. I mean, it's a haircut.
A haircut.
Just a haircut. Look, it's for your benefit.
What do they use for money down there anyway? Do they use pesos or whatever?
They've got two right now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they're going to do is combine the two. So
it'll be like the Canadian money where it's French and English.
I don't know, but whatever it is, bad. And Sudan is experiencing hyperinflation. Apparently, there's the comment was hyperinflation is real.
It's just stunning to me that it is. This is one of those things when you realize what governments for 4,000 years they had fallen into the same trap.
Right.
4,000 it has never worked for inflation. It's never worked.
People. You're right. I mean, look, they've been skimming the money. It's the coin shake in the bag. It's whatever you can do. Like you said, thousands of years since money's been invented,
right?
For sure. And yet, like you said, they just don't figure it out. Look, all you got to do is take out your dollar bill out of your pocket. Look at it. It's got 2 signatures on it. That's not for design. That's there because it used to be a promise to get something else.
Right.
And the paper itself isn't worth anything.
Well, unfortunately, it's even worth less than a blank piece of paper.
Yeah,
because at least you can't even write on it. That's right. In fact, I think it's illegal to write on it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so, well, it's interesting.
You can't even use it for taking notes.
I'm curious. Cryptocurrencies have no chance of overtaking the regular currencies unless they get backed by something.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, the regular currencies are not backed by anything.
Right. And that's why it's
full faith and credit.
That's right. Full faith and credit. And that's what they're all backed by right now.
Yeah.
And as soon as some wily, enterprising dictator or world leader decides to attach their money to something, they're going to garner everything if they can guarantee the attachment. But until that time, I mean, look, it's interesting that the currencies, crypto is listed with the other currencies on Yahoo.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, when you go to...
I did not know that.
Yeah.
And, my God.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, and so wait till the government gets a hold of that.
Boy, I'll tell you, isn't that the truth?
They'll shut it down real fast if they think people are going to switch up.
And what's amazing, of course, is it's such a peanutty little amount. I mean, the total capitalization, at whatever it is nothing.
A couple $100 billion.
That's it. And speaking of a couple of $100 billion, that brings up something else I'll talk about in a minute.
Okay.
Also, bad news, Walter Williams. Walter Williams, one of our great heroes, economics heroes, he was an economist, brilliant
It's a
economist.
black guy, right?
Yeah, he's a black guy, economist, and he taught at George Mason for years. 84 years old and died fairly quickly. Apparently, he wrote a column like 2 days ago, and then he went to sleep and never woke up, kind of thing. But he's one of the real heroes. He and Thomas Sowell are the two, if you want to call them people, economists of color that really know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they've done all the research and all the stuff, and he's got all the platitudes in there. It's not platitudes, not the sayings that are dead nuts on the money.
Yeah.
And if you just listen to this guy, then nobody ever does. I mean, these guys really knew. They've done all the research on and a lot of, especially about black people. One of the things that both of them have done is to find out how black people were ascending in families and in elimination of poverty and everything until, guess what?
The Great Society.
The Great Society. And then guess what? Tank City. There's a thing that, you look at the graph, it goes up and then it levels off and so forth. And once as he said so many times, you get a free check. They've done it on purpose to make you dependent on it.
Yeah, I honestly think that the situation is worse than that because they're not doing it on purpose. Because they think they're helping. The Ilhan Omars of the world, they think they're helping the people of color by creating a separate society and promising them reparations and all that. They think that's help. They do. They really do. And that's why they're so passionate about it. I mean, AOC, man, she is all about forgiving people's student loan debt, and she literally believes...
Forgiveness, you mean?
Whatever.
Yeah.
And she thinks, and I promise you, she would swear on a Bible that is the right thing to do. And that...
Well, of course, her buddies would swear on a Koran, but yeah.
But whatever. I mean, now she's Catholic.
No, I know she is, but I'm talking about her buddies.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're not swearing on anything.
No. Well, the thing is, and you're right, one of the things that's interesting about it, when you realize she was born like in 1990.
Yeah.
I mean, she has no knowledge of the history of the 60s and 70s. I mean,
not
80s even.
Knowledge.
I mean, nothing. No, nothing. I mean, you can't absorb, when you were actually living through a lot of that stuff. And
she could have studied it. And she does have a, quote, economics degree.
Well, that's amazing.
But she literally doesn't understand basic supply and demand. I mean, how they give out grades
someplace up in
such
Boston,
a condemnation of the university system.
You would think that. I mean, that's a great thing because you can go to that school and get your economics degree and have it actually thing that says I studied economics.
Right.
But it's worthless. I mean, it's anti-economics.
It totally is.
And I mean, the school ought to be. You think Trump was bad with Trump University? Yeah. Somebody that teaches that kind of economics up there at a, quote, legitimate university.
Right. No, they're spreading chaos and misinformation.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, I think they're doing it literally patting themselves on the back. The new socialism, this is it, this is the right way.
But what's amazing to me is that if this was such a good deal in 1966 or 67 or whenever the stuff was signed, and it's cost literally trillions of dollars, and nothing, zero. It's been flat.
It's because the evil Republicans have stopped them.
Yeah, of course it wasn't. You have to understand the Democrats were in total control of everything until '94, that's when the Great Revolution with Newt came along.
Yeah, what are you talking about? From 92 to 94? I mean,
no, it was 94 to 96 was when was before.
Yeah, I know, but when you say the Democrats were in complete control, I mean, you had Reagan from 80 to 88, then you had Bush from 80.
That's true. You're right. You're right about that part, but I'm talking about the Congress.
Well, in the Congress, right? Yeah. I mean, it seems like every president has an opposite Congress. We're going to
find out. I heard someplace just as I was coming over here that apparently one of the Democrats. In runoff. Of course, the runoff is not until the 5th of January. But apparently, one of the people that's running for the Senate
in Georgia
is ahead now, Democrat. So
what? Did you get that from the news?
Yeah, right. That's true too. Yeah.
God, the news is so bad these days. It's
oh my God, it just is. And it's funny because I was going through trying to do today's paper, today's notes, And other than Bitcoin 19,000, the fact that Walter Williams, great person, died. I mean, then I'm looking at the rest of the stuff, and a lot of it's crap. Anyway, I'm going to talk a little about COVID. Might as well.
Go ahead.
And this is what I love. I forget who this guy, Dr. Gottlieb, is. I think he's one of the guys that's supposedly sort of semi-good guy. He's a doctor of something like this, and he might be an epidemiologist, I don't know, but he's on CNBC, which is sort of a semi-okay, that's the financial one with Jim Cramer. So, but he says up to 30% of Americans may be infected with coronavirus by year end. I'm thinking, 30%? Are you kidding? I mean, we're talking about 100 million people going to be infected?
I think he's talking about post-infection people as well, probably, right?
Maybe. He says we're probably going to have, by the end of the year, 30% of the U.S. population infected, he said on Squawk Box. This country has roughly 330 million people, and you look at states like North Dakota, South Dakota, it's probably 30, 35, maybe even as high as 50%, he said. Now, what's the girl's name that's is in South Dakota that the girls left everything open? Name me, know me.
Oh yeah,
What's her name?
I don't know.
Well,
but yeah, South Dakota.
South Dakota. She's
the babe.
Yeah, she's a babe, right?
Yeah.
She totally is. She's a kind of a Palin. Governor person, whatever.
Except with intelligence.
Yeah, right. Except intelligence. All right. So anyway, they're talking about in South Dakota, which is like you talk about the wide open country,
right?
And if they're getting COVID, if they're getting 50% COVID people, you're thinking, I got news for you. First of all, I don't believe it, number one. But number two, even if it's true, it's got to tell you something about the way it's being spread. And I'm thinking it must be electromagnetic waves or alien infection or something, because there's nobody out there, for God's sakes.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, unfortunately, all the news on COVID is completely unbelievable. You can't.
How can you say? I'm getting ready to talk about it.
You literally can't. I mean, you go to Drudge today, and the
oh my God,
the headline is "Morgues and Hospitals Overflow."
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think it was the Black Plague if you just tuned into that. If you just opened that up today and you saw the Drudge headlines, you would literally think it was people dying in the streets, just passing out and keeling over. I mean, that's the interpretation they want you to have.
I know.
And yet, I mean, you have to go. I put up the numbers here. Here are our numbers going back. I mean, this is from the Johns Hopkins COVID website.
Okay.
And I mean, you have to go directly to the hospitals these days to actually get the numbers. And then even then, you can't really trust it because, as you know, they're incentivized in different ways.
Right.
So, I mean, the numbers are all over the place. But, I mean, you look at this. I went ahead and transcribed the changes in the deaths per day rate. Average going back 50 days or so, and you can see New York. You got a little spike here. It was seven a day for a while, and then went up 9, and then 25, 50 all of a sudden, and then back down to 25. Texas, they were at 100 a day for a while, and went down to 60, back up to 120. Now 130 was the last thing. I mean, but Florida here with no masks and no lockdowns. 50, 60, 40, 50, 60. Not exactly a big swing or anything in terms of numbers and changes.
22 million people in Florida.
Yeah.
And of course they're pillaring our governor.
Right.
Because he has said on numerous occasions, yesterday there was a game or something, and he was out there, he says, no, I am not locking this place down. We are wide open.
In Florida, I mean, anybody who knows anything about Florida knows that it's basically like a nation here in terms of the disparity of locations.
The distribution, I mean?
Yeah, there's population centers that are densely packed, and then there's rural farmland, and everywhere in between. And there's international places down in South Florida, and then totally American rural whatever cowboys up in the Panhandle and stuff. I mean, it's everything.
It is everything. We really are. It is really everything.
Yeah, and so I just don't know what you just can't you can't tell a dang thing from the numbers anymore. And of course, it's all just literally, I would say at least half of it is propaganda.
Well, the other thing is that when they talk about the infection, one of the best.
And you don't know which half. Keep going.
Right. Well, one of the best sources we have is our friend Jeff Childers, who every day puts out a thing on what's happening locally.
And he goes to the hospital websites.
He does. He goes. He is so researched on this stuff, and then when you see other people that are saying, you're killing grandma, or you're killing me, you're killing my children if you don't wear a mask, blah blah, and then you find out that what's happening around here is not that bad at all, not even close. And as he said, I mean, he counts up all the stuff, and so often is what the fear mongering has to do with the number of cases detected. And I will say this, that what Jeffrey has done is he says, well, when you test people, sometimes you set the limits on detection so low that almost anything comes through there. If anything that even remotely looks like a virus, you've checked positive.
And not only that, people are still not using the actual mathematical statistical analysis that you need, using Bayes' theorem and probability estimates, and factoring in things like false positives and false negatives.
Right.
And the differences in the tests and all kinds. There are so many factors to put in that thing. For people to say that they know what's going on based on a news report is just bullshit.
Well, not only that, what's interesting is because the news reports are all over the place. When you say, I read this one, I read that one, I read the other one, and literally the spectrum is this giant bell-shaped curve of information. Where do you get your information from?
You have to go to your local hospital and get the actual information, and then take it with a grain of salt. That's the best you can do. And
then, salt's bad for you.
Well, take it with a bunch of salt. Actually, they changed that recently.
Oh, did they?
Science came back out and said, you know what? Actually, salt is good for you. Eat it. Eat a lot of it. And they did. They literally came out and changed the entire structure of the salt thing. And of course, we have the salt monster here as corporate.
Yeah, that's right.
And she gets up in the middle of the night and licks the salt lick.
Right, exactly.
And now it's been shown, hey, that might actually be good for your heart and other things. It's amazing. They've changed the whole science around. It's amazing how science changes when you do.
And it is interesting because they're always saying, well, trust the science.
Right.
And I'll tell you right now, the food pyramid.
Oh yeah, the science.
Over the last 100 years, that food pyramid has gone completely upside down like three times.
Literally upside down right now from where it was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was eat your cereals and grains and breads and potatoes and get your long chain carbohydrates in first and pack them in, and then have a little bit of meat on the top and whatever. And I mean, it's all you can do. And I remember Grandma telling me, like I remember when I was a kid telling Grandma she was putting too much butter on something, and she gave me the eye.
Yeah.
I got the eye. Like, hey kid.
Well, not only that.
I'm 70 years old. How the hell old are you?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think about that because I love butter, and it was one of the people that I worshipped, and unfortunately she's not here, was the French chef. What's her name?
Oh,
Childs.
Julia Childs.
Julia Childs. She said butter is the way to go. And I can tell you, there's different butters. When I was over in Europe, where you get a Belgian butter or a Swedish butter, that's some sweet butter.
Tastes good.
Yeah.
Well, so my friend Carrie Kelly here is all about the whole meat eating thing now, swears by it, and a lot of people do. But it suits yourself, really. I think you gotta take into account.
Well, as my great grandfather said, everything in moderation.
Yeah, there's that too.
I mean, you just you overload on everything, it's not going to work out. Anyway, so interestingly enough, this guy Gottlieb, who's coming out with is worried that everybody 30 to 50% of people are going to be infected. Turns out he's on the board of Pfizer.
Weird.
It's just he's a board member of Pfizer, which was the first company to apply for emergency use authorization with the FDA for its COVID-19. Boy, what a shocker. Here's a kind. I mean, you think, and this is the last paragraph on this article. This is way down.
Right.
You could. A lot of times people get bored reading and they go through 3 or 4 or 5 paragraphs and they close up the thing.
Well,
but I fortunately know one thing that I have said so many times.
Go to the end.
Go to the end. That last sentence,
paragraph.
That last paragraph. That last sentence.
Clear up all the bullshit you just read in the previous.
You cannot imagine.
It's amazing.
Now, here was another clickbait headline.
Okay.
Putin orders mass COVID vaccinations to begin next week in Russia. They got something that's called just hours after the UK approved the rushed Pfizer vaccine for use in the UK as soon as next week. Vladimir Putin ordered the start of mass-scale vaccination against the coronavirus in Russia by the end of next week, with the teachers and the medics get the first shot. Interestingly enough, he says they're ready for large-scale vaccination in the amount of doses, and they call their anti-COVID, Sputnik 5.
Okay.
Well, for those of you who don't know, Sputnik was their first, was the first satellite, 1957 or something. Already produced to reach 2 million people in the coming days. The vaccine, now, interestingly enough, towards the end, when you think Putin, dictator, the whole deal, the vaccination against COVID-19 will be voluntary, and they will get the shots free of charge. So. That's what everybody, that sounds like Bernie or somebody. I mean,
well, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Boris Johnson also has said that their vaccine, Boris Johnson, BJ, whatever, in UK, it won't be mandatory.
Really?
Won't be mandatory.
Well, but you know what they're doing over there. They're literally coming out with freedom papers. They're literally coming out with the papers that you get. That says you can go do normal stuff now because you've been vaccinated.
You're free. In addition to your driver's license and your passport and your insurance card, now you have this other papers.
Now your papers may not be in order, and I guess you could be arrested if your papers are not in order and you're out doing stuff like buying groceries. I mean, we are on the precipice of a British Bobby walking up to a citizen and taking them down because their papers are not in order.
Well, they did that in Australia. We saw that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there was a good video of one in Britain a couple days ago.
Oh really?
Yeah. And I mean, they're beating the tar out of the guy. They're literally sitting, 5 guys sitting on top of him, punching him in the head. And
was it no mask?
Yeah, or something like that. I don't know what it was. You couldn't tell. You can't tell from the but. That was the allegation. That was what it was supposed to be. Was no mask.
I mean, it wasn't like it was robbing a store or anything.
No, but I mean, you don't know because, again, there was a video of a kid who kept going back to some bar, unruly drunk kid, and they finally literally tossed him out on his head, and the subtext was, well, this is what they do with you without a mask, but it didn't have anything to do with the mask.
Yes.
And it's just you can't take the video at face value. You have to get the second video and the third video and some independent eyewitness there on the ground, an Andy No or a Tim Pool or somebody, and it's unfortunate that the news has destroyed all their credibility and we can't believe a damn thing they say anymore.
No, that's true. Can't even. Yeah, that's true. Well, it is interesting. You can't hardly believe what you say. You see, I mean, you as you know, when you go through the lawyer thing, they always have the big room where the guy runs in and does something to the professor and then runs back out and they say, "What did you see?"
Right. What was he wearing?
What was he wearing? Was he? And they get black, white, green shirt, red shirt, whatever it is. Girl, you know what I mean? Yeah. Just everything all over the place.
Right.
Just amazing. So anyway, they're calling this the Pfizer in England. They're calling this the Pfizer Jab.
Oh man!
Yes, the jab. Now I don't know if this is a two-parter or not, and I don't know if this is where you have to go back after a couple of weeks and get a booster shot.
Oh yeah, well I don't know if some of them are. I mean, I know the AstraZeneca one is.
Oh, and which one has to be held at minus at below freezing whatever?
I don't know.
I don't know either. One of has to be like colder than space. Or something. Anyways, this and Bojo warned that the Britons must still follow all the social distancing rules. Mm-hmm. So everybody gets vaccinated, but nope, mask. And that's also at least 1 or 2 people here in this country have said you gotta expect to be wearing masks for the next couple of years, no matter what.
What a bunch of crap. The other thing I kept thinking of is, as you know, I mean, people adjust their behavior based on their relative perception of the threat to themselves.
Right.
And so if people are told that masks work, then they're going to go out more. And
Right.
isn't it possible that not only do the masks not work, but that's encouraging people to be more reckless?
Well, this is what they said with airbags and stuff like that, and,
Yeah.
and seat belts.
Exactly.
They were talking about the fact that now people drive a little more recklessly because they're not going to die. It might hurt the car, but you're not going to die.
Yeah.
And you and I both said we've seen things where literally, when you think about the bag blows up and everything like, they walk away.
Yeah.
Whereas they'd have been dead before, and they would never have taken that chance.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Right.
So
Anyway, vulnerable people who need a vaccine should definitely get a vaccine. Everybody should get a vaccine. I'm sorry, whatever. And he said that the vast majority of the most vulnerable patients and healthcare workers should be the AstraZeneca and so forth. They should all be vaccinated by Easter.
mm-hmm.
So that's good. Another thing we had. I thought this was kind of interesting. The Steelers. The coach of the Steelers.
Yeah.
Now here's a guy who's on the sidelines coaching the Steelers at the game. He was fined $350,000 for a mask violation because he was sitting there on the sidelines and he would pull down his mask and say stuff or whatever it was. Okay, on the sidelines.
$350,000.
$350,000. He was the way it was. It said the coach Mike Tomlin, a total of $350,000. $250,000 was fined was the team. And he had $100,000 for failing to properly follow the league's COVID-19 protocols. Can you? I mean,
When you contrast that with this, this is a little slideshow that I compiled of memes for this week.
okay.
And one of them is very telling and relates directly to that story. Whoops, not that one. This right here. So this is just some other fun things. This is the clock with days of the week. In case you get lost, here is government fixing a government problem. And here is the lifeboats. We're all in this together, except for all of y'all. Oh, somebody created an autonomous zone around their store.
Yes, I saw that, and they arrested him.
Is that right?
They perp walked his ass out of there. Yes.
God.
I mean, they frog walked him out.
Doesn't surprise me. So this is the image I was talking about. Look at this. This is the band, and they cut the mouth out of the mask.
Okay. And
I mean, what do you protect? What's the mask doing there then?
protecting your nose.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you can just, I just thought that was interesting, and I wonder if this is. I mean, this is obviously a football game of some type.
Yeah.
And these guys didn't get fined. So.
Yeah, no, and they certainly, and you could put it this way. This was a football game. It was Steelers versus somebody, and I forget what it was, but the fact was that they all go into a huddle.
Right, yeah.
Okay, I mean, I don't care who you are. There's 11 of them in this huddle, very close together. Then they get out, and they're not wearing masks. So here's the coach on the sideline, out in the open air. You can say what you want, and he's hollering, which of course, I mean, who knows? And they fined him personally $100,000.
You said $350.
No, it was $250 was for the team.
Oh, okay.
The team got $250,000, and he got, but obviously because he was not wearing the mask. So
right.
This fine, you can have however you want to call it. It was because of him, and it was what happened is they were watching him on TV.
Man.
And while he's pulling it down, put it. But
I wonder if there's somebody sitting there like, hey, do we need an extra $100,000 today?
Yeah.
I wonder who gets the money. The league, they split that up between Goodell or whoever.
I'm just blown away by the fact that, I thought this for a minute, this can't be true because he's outside on the sidelines. I mean, how many people are going to get I don't know, the cheerleaders or I don't know.
And the people he's yelling at?
Yeah. People he's yelling at from the sidelines. I mean, they're 20 yards away, for God's sakes.
Yeah, some people come over and you yell in their ears.
I understand that, but my point is this. Here you've got the team in a huddle.
Right.
Okay. They are helmet to helmet.
Look,
okay. Helmet to helmet. And they're talking.
Yeah.
Blue 49 on red.
Don't they have masks on at the?
No, they do have the little thing that comes out like.
Death League is this anyway?
I don't know. I sat there and I thought, what? I don't know what happens if you don't pay it. I just.
Yeah, well, you challenge that one in court. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, moving on. Okay. I'm going to go off the COVID for a while.
Yeah, please, God.
Please, yeah. One of the things that find in New Jersey, in this last election, they okayed recreational marijuana.
Okay.
They are now, but before they actually put it in, they're weighing a social equity tax on marijuana. New Jersey lawmakers just include a social equity tax in the legislation establishing a legal market for recreational marijuana. Bills in the state, Senate, and Assembly would give cannabis regulators the authority to impose the social equity excise fee, not a tax, fee, which would help to fund programs aimed at reducing racial disparities caused by drug laws. Okay. The influential Black Caucus has lobbied for programs aimed at helping black communities, capital B, black communities, which have been hard hit by marijuana prohibition. Black residents are likelier to be arrested on marijuana charges
Why don't
than
they
white
just do the obvious thing and make it legal and wipe out everybody's past record? And that's what the bill that's sitting over in committee right now in the House literally says that.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to pass it in September. I don't know what happened. That was when it came out in August, and it was Nadler's bill.
Whoa.
Yeah, Jerry Nadler.
Of all the people.
Of all people, hey man, like whatever it is, if he gets that passed, he moves very much back into a decency type of.
Put up a statue. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. It's interesting though because he kind of looks like the Penguin.
He totally, poor guy.
in Batman.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So hey.
Well, I don't like it. Make fun of people. It's low hanging fruit to make fun of people's immutable, unchangeable characteristics. Of course, that one he could lose some weight. He
did once.
Did he?
Yeah, I think he's gained a lot of it back. But yeah, no, he used to be just a balloon. I mean, really, and
he looks like a cartoon character.
No, he does. Point. That's right, and he still gets. I mean, what is he like 5'7" or something? And he's Is
he that tall?
I don't know. Next item we have big deal here. Mm-hmm. The Boeing's 737 Max is going to return to the air. Return to the skies.
Yeah, I heard that.
Federal aviation officials cleared the 737 Max to resume commercial trips last month.
All aboard.
Yeah, all aboard, right. Well, it's interesting because, as you would expect, this is my nun-whipper thing. What's interesting is there are, I don't know how many, there must be 500 or 1,000 of these planes that have been grounded for I don't know how long, not flying. And
that many?
Oh, lots. Right. And now they fixed them all up supposedly, and it said, now I don't believe the whole story here, but it's interesting. American Airlines first trip will be a December 29th flight from Miami to New York, and the industry, it says here, the industry has spent hundreds of billions of dollars on the latest 737 upgrade. I find that's a little high. A little high. I'm thinking that's on its face. That's a little too.
No,
much.
It's hundreds of millions.
Yeah, hundreds of millions. That I could understand. Somebody mixed that up.
Yeah. Is it a British article?
I don't know.
Because they use billions
it's
for millions.
CNN. I think it's from CNN or something.
Okay.
But the crash victims' families are protesting the return to service because the final investigation of the Addis Ababa crash has yet to be published. So the mother of one of the people that died on the Ethiopian crash or whatever it was, the plane is inherently unstable and it is unairworthy without its software, says this guy whose daughter.
Addis Ababa, was it hit by a meteorite or something?
No, it fell out of the sky.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, no, right. I don't know. No. But what I mean is, this is the Michael Stumo, whose daughter, Samaya Rose, died in the 2019 crash. So he says he's concerned. He thinks that after the hundreds of millions of dollars spent, that the inherently unstable and unairworthy. That's his professional opinion.
Right. Yeah.
So this is
so he's going to pass the what's his daughter's name?
Yeah, this is going to be the Samaya Rose Stumo law or something. Yeah,
that's right. No refurbishing of planes.
No.
Look. You don't have to worry about it. The Boeing and whoever the airlines, nobody's putting up a plane that they don't think can fly.
Can you imagine?
You can't.
You have to understand. This is one of the critical things. it's not a remote plane come down by the ground. The pilots are on board.
Right, exactly.
There's no way.
There's no way. Crash.
No. That's
you can trust
no
that
way.
every time.
I'm telling you, that's
right.
it.
When they get to be drone planes, all right, then maybe we're going to have a little problem. But for now, still, you got a guy in there who was flying F-16s over freaking Kuwait or something.
Yeah, right, exactly. And there's 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's a pilot, a co-pilot, and there's an engineer usually, or there maybe maybe not. In some of these planes now, they only have 2 people, but they have at least 2.
Yeah.
And so the fact is that these guys are not taking that damn thing up there without some assurance that they're coming back down safely.
Exactly.
No, that's so. This is good news, I think, for the airline. Now, the little minor problem, I'm going to talk about this later, and that is, what about the air traffic? That is to say, are they still going to go and have everybody have to wear a mask on the flight? Now, here you're going to fly from New York to L.A. It's a 5.5 hour flight or something like that. I mean, I don't know, a mask for 5.5 hours and...
shoot, a lot of people do it for a lot longer than that. When all the government workers have to go to their 8-hour shifts and stuff, I mean...
Well, not only that, but I mean, can you imagine, and this is another thing, we've mentioned on the last show how Qantas is insisting on a vaccine, a test, a coronavirus
papers.
Before you get your papers, right, before you get on the plane. Now, whether people know it or not, when you fly from L.A. to Sydney, it's like a 20-hour flight.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm not wearing no mask 22 hours or whatever.
Well, look, you're the super vulnerable, old, multi-comorbidity.
Well, that on 3 levels, I'm overweight, I'm almost 80 years old, and I've had a double lung transplant.
Yeah.
And I take immune suppressant of drugs to stay alive.
Right.
So the tongues don't ripping out of me like some alien beast. But of all the people, probably should maybe wear at least not only a mask, but a whole tank of oxygen.
Yeah. Well, one of the get-up things with the full.
Exactly. That's right. That's right.
The full bubble for you.
Anyway, I just think it's, to me, so I wouldn't do it. I'll tell you. All right. Next item on my list.
Go ahead.
SpaceX Starlink user, TOS. What's that? I knew what it was.
Tales of Suspense.
Something of service. Terms of service. Declares Mars as a free planet. Now, this is Musk's thing,
Here's your bubble right there.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'm breathing my own stuff back in. As the carbon dioxide fills up there. Yeah. I thought this. Now, Starlink is kind of interesting because that's the low orbit, 2,000 satellites that are supposed to give
internet everywhere.
Internet everywhere, right? And I think they put up the first couple of hundred of them already.
Okay. Yeah.
And
he's released a bunch,
Yeah, and this is Elon Musk's thing, and the whole idea is to get the latency down, so that one of the things that you find out is, it's really interesting. If you have like a 1 or 2, or I think it's maybe a 3 millisecond delay between when you talk and when you hear, whatever it is, it's not much, and you stumble, you can't do it. It's just amazing. So the same thing happens when we see this all the time when you have latency, and if you are typing something and it doesn't appear and it takes a couple of extra milliseconds to go someplace else, sometimes and we see this all the time actually on the Zoom, because the latency on Zoom, unfortunately, is a little too long, and very often what you'll see is somebody will start to talk, and then the other person will talk over them because you don't remember. You have to wait.
Yeah.
You have to wait the extra second or two in order to stop.
It messes up everybody's timing.
Right, it messes up. And of course, to me, I mean, I remember when I was first in ham radio, one of the things you always do is you'd say over.
Right.
When you were done. I mean, that's what you had to say, was so that you would know you were done.
Yeah.
And it was, even in Morse code, there's a special symbol for over. A special dot dash.
So what's the problem with Elon here in his?
Well, what they're trying to do is to get the latency down, and what I'm talking about. This is his sort of claim to fame, and what else to do is Starlink's beta test is requiring participants to recognize Mars as a free planet.
Oh, yeah,
So,
I heard that.
Yeah, so I mean, here's the deal. This is the thing that's locally here on the planet. You know, it's supposed to have 20,000 satellites or something like that up there. But when you sign the terms of service, then there's a little paragraph that said, "I hereby
Declare that
recognize that Mars is a free planet."
Right.
Now, what that means is that no government entity can lay claim to Mars,
Right. According to your declaration.
according to your declaration. Now, there's a couple things.
How many guns does your declaration have?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's number one. Well, of course, if he's the only one that's going to go there. But I thought it's
Right.
interesting. I thought it was interesting. A couple of things. They have divided up Antarctica into a couple of segments.
Well, that you could understand because you could theoretically launch a drone fleet of robots down there to go mine something, or I mean, that's not inaccessible.
Well, what is interesting, of course, is the battle for the North Sea, which, of course, there's no land there.
Right.
So they're trying to claim the ground, the ocean bottom. And when you look at the countries that are on the peripheral, there's some overlap.
It's a big issue,
Yeah, it
especially
is.
now that the global warming has loosened up the ship passage through the North Passage a bit.
Yeah, it does. It appears that way. It's kind of interesting. I was watching. There's a YouTube video guy who makes he must be filthy rich because he's a young guy, but he's traveled to like 190 countries, and he talks and he'll stay in these countries for like a day or two or maybe 5, and meet the people. He does a video thing on the whole deal, and one of them is there's one in the South Sea Island called Tuvalu or something like this. It's just a big long strip, and it's one road down the middle, and it is one of those places that's going to go under as the sea level rises, and I'm thinking. Better get there now if you want to see the place.
Well, look, there's probably a couple of 100 years, or even a couple of 1,000 years. When you go back and look at the graph of the ice ages over the last 1,000,000 years, there have been 10, and they're pretty regular. And at the height of the last global ice minimum, the sea level was significantly higher than it is right now. I mean, Florida was just a little strip of land going down the middle.
And I know that they said that before that, and it wasn't all that long ago, because what they did is they went over to, I don't know if you know this, but there's like 3 little islands off the coast of Spain that are Spanish.
Yeah.
Mallorca, Menorca, and Isbia.
Okay.
Ibza or whatever it is. Anyway, they found some animals that are indigenous only to those islands. I mean, only they're really weird. And what they figured was how'd they get there? And the
flightless bird, they walked.
Well, no, there was a rabbit kind of thingy looking thing.
Okay.
And and they said that basically at some point the Mediterranean.
Well, at the last global maximum, Britain was connected to mainland Europe,
Ireland.
All of it was connected. The North Sea was just a lake, basically.
Yeah. Well, and then there was also, anyway, there's a lot of this stuff that goes on kind of interesting. When you realize it, the sea level rises regularly over these millions of years, 400 and 500 feet.
Yeah, well, over the tens of thousands of years even.
Right.
And there's a couple. There's the great meltwater pulses where it raised pretty quickly, pretty fast.
Yeah.
Those are probably due to some cataclysmic event.
I was reading also they were investigating the Mediterranean, which has really undergone some phenomenal changes over the years, and I just think it's kind of interesting.
They just found a Stonehenge at the bottom of Lake Michigan.
No.
Apparently, yeah. A bunch of monoliths with carvings on.
Oh, speaking of monoliths,
not like that one.
No, you saw what happened.
Steel.
You saw what happened, didn't you?
What? It got toted off by a couple of guys.
Yeah. Well, apparently it was.
Reappeared in Rhodesia or something.
No, well, that's another one.
Oh, okay.
But there's apparently it was. I won't call it a fake, but somebody said it was like made out of wood.
No.
And covered with something, and they took it apart.
How can you say
to
that?
haul it out of there? Well, I just thought it was fascinating that they apparently 3 or 4 guys in a truck, went in there and.
Right. Well, how do we know it wasn't theirs?
Right. Well, that's right. And of course, they were talking. The land manager BLM was saying it was illegal anyway. So I'm cleaning up. I'm cleaning it up. That's right. I'm doing my civic duty.
Exactly.
So we don't know. At any rate, so I was talking about the Starlink Starlink, but Elon Musk is saying that the whole Mars block was confirmed. Smoke away require users to agree that no Earth-based government has authority or sovereignty over Martian activities. SpaceX explains how services provided around Earth and the Moon will follow laws governed by the state of California in the United States. But for Mars, the story changes.
Speaking of the moon, did you see that the Chinese landed a craft up there?
Not only that, it's coming back
Okay.
with rocks.
They're bringing our golf ball?
I'll tell you. We talked about we talked about that before. You want to make some money on eBay? Bring that golf ball
Used
back.
golf cart.
That's it. I mean,
Used moon lander vehicle.
You could bring back anything that was left up there, just about. And now, apparently, what they're going to bring back is, like, I don't know, 10 pounds or something of rocks.
Used American flag. Stands up on its own.
Stands up on its own. That's right. Now, they did say that the solar radiation has pretty much destroyed the flag itself.
Yeah.
So that's only been 30, 40 years. But yeah, that's I thought it was interesting. So anyway, for services provided on Mars or transit to Mars via Starship or any other colonization spacecraft, requires the parties to recognize Mars as a free planet. And disputes will be settled through self-governing principles.
Through beatings.
That's right. Established in good faith at the time of Martian settlement. Now, I don't know what this sounds like to me, but
look, you know what it sounds like to me? Bullshit.
Well,
I mean, come on, you can say whatever you want. Look, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to declare right now, Jupiter.
Yes, that's right.
I
don't know about
that's it. Nope, nobody. Sovereign planet. That's it.
You'd be better off one of the moons.
One
I
of the
think.
moons. Okay.
Yeah.
Io.
Yeah, one of the moons that is quote habitable.
Right.
So I would just
well, even the biggest one's just a little bigger than the moon, so.
I know, but they're supposed to have water underneath the ice or something and all that kind of stuff.
You don't have enough gravity. Even Mars,
life.
Yeah, even Mars. Nobody's colonizing Mars for the next 1,000 years either, unless they alter people's DNA. Which there's a really good sci-fi thing out there right now. I think it's on Amazon, where they've got people living in the outer beltway, and their DNA is actually changed over just a couple of generations. Like they're longer, leaner, lighter people, and they've adjusted to living in the new. That's how. I think the DNA would adjust pretty quick, not in 100 years, but
there was a one of the early science fiction Outer Limits things where they were trying to unite the Earth, and so they changed this guy and into an alien thing. They changed his DNA and blood and everything like that, and they put him in a kind of a spaceshipy looking thing, and he landed. And the farmer came out of the field, says, "What?"
Right, yeah.
And took care of that.
Yeah, and that's why you don't have to worry about us being invaded by aliens, is because the possibility that the other planet has the same type of gravity and soupy atmosphere that we have here that would allow other creatures to come here and exist without all kinds of mechanized help.
Well, yeah, but again, we have mechanized help for our visits to the moon.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, when you multiply by the number of potential planets there are out there, maybe people will show up. Who knows?
So anyway, okay. Anyway, they're talking about sending the first humans. SpaceX biggest ambitions. I don't know how old Elon is. He about 40 maybe or something?
No, I think he's a little older than that. Yeah, but something like that. Yeah.
But he's talking about having first humans to Mars and establish a city. By 2050 is his goal. That's 30 years. So he'll be on up there then.
Good luck.
Good luck. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not.
Hey, he's certainly been surprising so far.
Yeah, boy, that's absolutely that is the truth. And I did see where there is. It is amazing when you see the battery technology and so forth. I saw where there's some Israeli company now that is trying to make a commuter plane that holds like a dozen people, half a dozen people or something, and has a range of about 300 miles, all electric.
Okay.
And what they've done is the batteries are scattered throughout the whole plane and everything like that. And, but that kind of stuff is coming along. We'll see.
We'll see.
Now, the other thing, I'm going to go back to where I grew up.
Okay.
DC Metro faces massive cuts to rail and bus service, and a third of all the workers are to be terminated.
What?
Yeah. Now, two things to consider. I remember.
This is just a plea for money, really, right?
Well, you have to understand now. Remember, the District of Columbia is pretty much governed by is governed by the Congress of the United States, and so they're responsible for a lot of the budget. What's interesting to me about this, I remember my uncle when I moved out of there. They were just finishing up the metro when it got started, and it was supposed to be a wonder, an amazing thing, and the metro.
No.
Yeah, and my uncle loved it. He said, "Man, this is so great." He could walk literally from his house. He would walk down to the metro station, get on, and be dropped off at his office downtown at the Press Club building where he had his office. And he said, "This is just unbelievable." Well, over the years, it has deteriorated, shall we say, rather markedly. They forgot. I know the government's always, but they'll build something nice and shiny, and they forget there's something called maintenance that they're supposed to do. So
that's why it has to be a business.
That's right.
It has to be a business because it has to actually generate funds based on the actual demand.
Well, here's the problem. What's really killed them recently has been this COVID thing. Literally, the ridership has fallen off by 80%.
Okay.
They count on a lot of that money to so now they're going to shut down stations and lines, and basically it's going to become a complete shell of its former self. I don't know, but this is what the COVID is doing. It
reminds me of Miami has a rail. Nobody knows about it because all it does, it goes to like one place. It goes up Useless One, US One. and it goes up Useless One from Coral Gables, and it goes to downtown to where the courthouse is.
Okay.
It was perfect for me. I rode it from law school to the courthouse every day.
Yeah.
It was literally deserted. Literally, I would be the only person on the train every day. Maybe one, maybe two other people. Occasionally you would see somebody walking up there. And just this huge monorail towering over went right by Overtown and then up, and nobody used it. Nobody.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because they got one now, I think, in Orlando on kind of the outskirts.
They were talking about doing an Orlando to Miami one, but they never did it.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about one from downtown Orlando to outer Orlando or something, to Winter Park or...
I don't think they have one.
I don't think they do. Maybe not.
They got one at Disney World, but...
Yeah. So anyway...
that one works.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it ought to for $125 a ticket.
Well, continuously for however long,
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, they're facing a hole in their budget of $500 million. But I mean, what's interesting to me, that they've. I don't know what you do when your ridership is the only reason you're there, and they're doing the right thing. They're closing stations.
Yeah.
They're doing everything. So now I guess all the traffic is going to come back up. Lyft and Uber, maybe you're going to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you let the market figure it out. I mean, if you're the business, if you're the rail company, and of course it's probably municipally operated.
I know it is. Yeah,
right.
It's called DC Metro. I mean, it's
right. So I mean, that's your mistake right there. And what they should do is they should attempt to sell it off to somebody.
Yeah. Well, I've ridden it. The only time I've ever ridden it, because they had a link out to Reagan, the downtown airport. Mm-hmm. So you get off the airplane, and actually I could get on the thing and end up near my aunt's house. So it wasn't bad from that standpoint. It was good. But from the airport into town, fine.
Well, I mean, look. I mean, if you happen to be on that route, I mean, awesome. But
well, that's always been the problem with mass transit,
right.
Because you have to be on the right. Now, it's interesting because before there were cars, people would vie for a railroad to stop at their town,
right?
And you'd find the town would grow.
You could make a town that way.
You could make a town, absolutely. I remember two things.
But you know what happens when the railroad goes away?
Yeah, right. The town dies totally. Well, not only that, or it gets bypassed by a
freeway, right?
Yeah, that's right, by a freeway.
Yeah,
which is I know that when we driven out on.
Ironic about that.
No, I know, right. But I thought it was interesting when we drove out to California, and you dive off of Route 40. Onto Interstate 40 onto Route 66, but it was kind of scenic and everything, but it was deserted. I mean, because that used to be the only way to go. I mean, it was, until whenever. Okay, we're coming here right to the end, so let me just go through before I get. Oakland, California, is banning natural gas in new residential and commercial.
Yeah, I saw that. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Just a blanket ban.
Blanket ban. Now they
This
said
is a green initiative.
this is a green initiative. That's right. So natural gas, which happens to be of all the pollutants,
Right.
one of the
Like
cleaner
the least,
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, seriously, give me a break.
It's just political. I mean,
of course it is. Of course it is. Because the city council, political,
Right.
voted unanimously to ban natural gas in newly constructed apartment. Now, what's going to happen? Here's the deal. What's going to be kind of interesting in a way, it seems to me. Now, I don't know who owns the gas company out there, if it's private or the city.
Okay. And
Here we used to have a private gas in this and our GRU bought it.
Yeah, I'd be willing to bet large money that it's municipally operated, or at least state operated. It's certainly not private. I'm saying.
Okay, but here's the deal. And it'd be interesting to find out about that. But here's the deal, and this is what I'm thinking. This is what happens here. Gas is still cheaper than it's cheaper than electricity. I can tell you that, for heating or cooling. And now cooling, of course, unfortunately, you really have to use electricity. But I can imagine that in places where you have a hot water heater or a stove or something that uses natural gas, if that apartment already exists, that would be a selling point.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because
sure.
I can tell you right now, one of the things I like about here, where we are here, we have a natural gas water heater. You never run out.
Well, and also the cooking with gas is just better. I mean, that's why they say now you're cooking with gas.
Ms. Jimmy doesn't believe that.
Well, whatever. I mean, when you want instant, the thing to get hot quick, and
that's it. No, I agree.
And then get not hot quick after that, and
yeah,
I mean that's
true, because that was one of the things that happens, as you know. When you turn the flame off, at least you can see that it's gone.
Right.
But when you turn the heat off the stove top, it stays toasty warm for a while.
A long time.
So, okay. The last item I've got here, as long as we're towards the end, is Lori Loughlin and Massimo Giuliani and their lives in prison. Now, you know who these people were?
Yeah.
Okay, they're the ones who paid big bucks to get their daughters, Olivia Jade and Isabella, huh?
Yeah, on the crew team at USC.
Is that what it was? Okay. Yeah. Anyway, but of course now they're living with no parents because their parents are in jail.
Okay.
And it says it's harder on them and so forth. Because it's a nightmare for them, says a source. They were very upset when they had to say goodbye, but to have both parents now in prison is very upsetting. Now my question to you is, really? I mean, they spent, $500,000 or whatever it was, bribing somebody to get their kids into school, and they're going to jail for this?
It's total bullshit, if you ask me. I mean, their big crime was doing whatever they could to get their kids educated.
Yeah.
And who was harmed? It was, this is...
Well, as they say, those were two spaces taken up by... You don't know that?
Well, I mean, it's just... it's incredible bullshit. But we have all kinds of crimes in this country that don't hurt anybody.
God, can you imagine, though, the jail? We're talking about...
And they're releasing people with actual criminal records over there. Now, the one good thing that I can tell you about California is they won't do any real time. I mean, they'll be out pretty soon. I think Massimo got 9 months or something. And
is that right?
Yeah.
And she got 13 months?
No, she got fewer. She got like 3 or something.
Oh, really?
I think that's what off the top of my head. But even so,
we're not talking years. But they're in the big house.
Well, and they're in the small house. Those are jail sentences.
Gray bar hotel.
Prison. Yeah. Well, probably. That's what I was wondering when you said, what's their life like? It's probably not hideously hideous, but also they'll only do a third of their sentence or something out there. I mean, California lets celebrities out real fast. They're super overcrowded anyway.
Yeah.
So out there, because they had a really tough attorney general out there for a
Yes,
while. You
I
may
know.
remember her.
I know, and she was really tough. And did she move up the ladder?
She did. She's going to be in charge of everything. And so
and you can know this because she's she's next in line behind Demento,
the
whatever.
dying guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I got one thing here real quick before we get out of here, and that is, did you see where you know who Ellen Page is?
Yes.
Or was?
Yes. Ellen Page. Let's see. She was in. What was she in?
Well, originally her first one was she was the little pregnant kid in
Juno.
Juno. That's it.
That's it. Yes. Yes.
That was her big.
Yes. When Ellen decided she's a guy.
That's right.
That's what happened. Now,
She did.
I'm thinking, wait a minute. You hear about this going the other way.
Right.
Quite often. You
Well,
know,
yeah.
So the guy decides he's a girl. Okay.
Right.
And he can have surgery if he wants to, up to a point. But I mean, she's and she was attractive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, still is.
Still is, right?
I just think it's interesting. And look, my first thought is, look, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want, But now she wants people to call her by masculine pronoun. No. Sorry. Not sorry. No.
No.
You don't get to do that. You can do whatever you want, but we can do whatever we want to.
Now, so she was. What was her name?
Ellen.
Okay, and what is it now?
Elliot.
Elliot. That's right. Okay,
You
Elliot.
can change your name, that's fine, but you can't make other people use the wrong pronoun for you. And the reason is because we all use pronouns for a very specific reason. Very specific reason. It's because we identify people of the opposite sex. It helps us procreate at the end of the day. So you don't get to just change that because that's what you want to hear about you.
Well,
if you could do that to us, then we could make you say things also.
Right.
And obviously we can't make you say things, right? So if we can't make you say things, then you can't make us say things. So that's just the principle, equality.
Well, there was something like 49 genders or whatever.
I know. Yeah, that's
all,
right.
I mean, all that.
And nobody cares if you got 6 genders and whatever it is. That's all your business. But if you're going to come out and announce it, okay, then people are going to comment on it. And I'm just here to tell you, all those people who are calling you a man now, they're humoring you. All right, they're placating you.
Yeah.
They don't really believe that. They're doing it to be nice. So that's great and all, but
I'm wondering
what
if she's a man? Can she go topless at the beach?
That's a good question. There's a lot of questions like that. Like, for example, now her character on TV, which is female, is being played by a man. Right?
I guess.
And her wife now, who was a lesbian, I guess is now straight.
Okay.
Because she's with a man now, not a woman.
Okay. She's with...
Yeah, I mean, you can't look. It just goes on and on. The bottom line is, you don't get to do that. You don't get to change the language because of what you want.
I want to see her at the beach. That's the ultimate. Let me tell you, that's the ultimate.
She's a really good actress too.
Huh?
She's a good actress. I love her.
Oh, I know.
She's in the new Umbrella Academy.
Yes,
thing,
I saw that.
That's good.
Yeah,
I mean, the second season's a little weak. It's a little bit.
No, I know. It started off with rave reviews.
Yeah.
But I'm personally, here's the ultimate test.
That's it.
Let's go to the beach.
That's it.
And I'll tell you right now.
Well, now she's a white male, so maybe she has white male privilege.
Which means?
I don't know. She can do more stuff.
Well, I want to see her at the beach.
There you go.
That's what I mean. Him. I want to see him at the beach.
That's right.
Come on, buddy. Let's,
buddy.
Come on, buddy. I want to see you at the beach.
So anyway,
see how that works.
Those people are just telling you what you want to hear. Okay. you can ask them to do it all day long, but I'm telling you, they're kowtowing to you. So I hope you like your suck up friends. Norway, along the same lines, just embraced the hate crime thing about misgendering people.
Really?
Yeah.
Be arrested for that?
Yeah. Now, I don't know if it's just words. I think you have to actively discriminate against the person based on their gender. You have to fire the trans person or something like that.
Okay.
But either way, they're straying off into that. Now, interestingly, the UK came back a little bit and said that if you're under 16 years old, that you can't make the decision
Right,
to take
I did see that.
hormone.
Because they were saying that if you're
People
8
like-
years old, you
Right.
can make them. Are you crazy?
This is insane. And this guy, some dude, Mr. Blow, online was saying same thing. Let your kid make up their mind. It's like, dude, you get a kid, okay, and then talk to us later. Talk to us in 10 years.
Right. God, that reminds me of Mr. Blow. I just there was an attorney that was that I saw, and his God, never mind. I'll think of it later.
All right. That's it. That's all you get.
That's it for the day.
That's it. So,
Till Sunday.
that's it. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll be back in 4 days. And you can find us around the web, of course. YouTube, Twitter, lots of places. If you want to donate to us and make sure that we stay, here's our Bitcoin QR code address. Just send us a little
You
Bitcoin.
can even do a piece of Bitcoin.
That's it, of course. And
We're not proud.
this is a great book you can pick up too. It can help us out also and help yourselves out, how to stay out of trouble. So, all right. We'll see you soon. This has been the Jimmy Doane Show.
Hope we don't get shadow banned.
Oh, we're deep, especially when I did that last Ellen thing. Oh, man.
Oh yeah, right. That's it. Bye bye.
See you soon.